Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally, and today I have my most favorite Christmas DIY video for you yet. This was so much fun. I am bringing you 5 DIYs that are Christmas song inspired. I'm going to show these from the most simple to the more complex. I took a lid that I got with a bunch of lids, if you saw my haul, for free, in a glass cloche, and literally put a nest and a bird and some greens inside of it, and tied on a gold ribbon with a gold key. And this is the most simple and the most sweet, and it is the song Christmas is for the Birds. That is an old song before my time by Conway Twitty, but I thought it was very fun and very appropriate for this sweet, easy to replicate little bird for Christmas. So that is how my first simple DIY came out, but don't be fooled by the simplicity of these first two, because after that they are getting more and more awesome. This second one, I had some antique gold rub and buff, one of those little bathroom light fixtures or little light shade that goes over the fixture, and a wood finial. I am using 2 kinds of glue here to adhere my wood finial onto this glass. I've painted these before, but this one actually has a nice champagne tone to it, so I opted not to paint this one, but certainly you could make this any color that you want. Then I am just taking that gold rub and buff, and I am going over the entire wooden finial here to change the color of this completely. I am thinking about I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day, although there are many songs with bells. I am then going to just gently go over the high points on the glass itself with this rub and buff, and then I am going around the bottom rim to bring out some more gold in the bottom section of this glass. Of course, I need to be able to hear the bell, so I am taking out a wood bead and I am going to give it the same gold look. I am going to add it to some twine, tie a knot on both ends, and glue that knot to the top of the wooden finial. Tie on some gold ribbon for a bow, and that is as simple as it is. This could be hung from a beautiful green swag, and that would be lovely as well. This third one might be my favorite. I found this at the dump on the good table this week, and I thought that it would be absolutely perfect for the idea that I had in my mind. And the thing is, I didn't have the right paint color, so I did have to mix some yellow with a beautiful robin's egg blue that I had in my stash to get a green. This green was a little too green, so I did add a touch of the Java brown here to give this just a little bit less of a bright green and a little more muted. And then I actually only had to cover this with 1 coat, surprisingly. And I left a little of the brown unmixed, and between that and the brown underneath, it is giving me kind of an uneven, almost a striped appearance, bringing some of that brown into the green, which is perfect for what I'm doing. And if you know me at all, you know I do like things that are a bit more vintage and not that perfect new look. So I am good with this. And then once the cover is done, I am taking the bottom and I am going to do the exact same thing. This is a latex base, so this is going to be already protected. I don't need to give it any more of a coat on this than that, but it does have a little bit of a shine, so that could work with or for or against me here as I go into the next step here. But once that's fully dry, I am pulling out my Menagerie IOD transfers. And I am going to speed this up. Obviously, I don't want you to watch me do this for the next 20 minutes, but I am cutting bits and pieces of this transfer, and that's what I love about IOD and any other transfers, that you can make this your own, depending on the project, the shape of your project, the idea that you have. Sometimes I'll mix and match different transfer booklets. I'm taking actually here the branches from another one as well, but this is just giving me the basic structure that I'm looking for, and I am using my fingernail in parts and I'm using the stick in other parts to just rub on these transfers and to go over the lid and down into the box to make this look somewhat seamless, like a tree would be. They're not perfect and they have all kinds of branches sticking in all kinds of places, so I wanted this to resemble that. And of course, that is a partridge on top, supposed to be a partridge. I know it's not really a partridge. And this is my pear tree down the bottom, so I am adding yet another one. That's the closest bird that I could find to a partridge with my transfers. And I am having fun with this. I love, love, love the color green, and I just really am enjoying something different. And I love this challenge, this Christmas song inspired challenge. I think it is so absolutely fun. And this video is part of the 5 Under 5 collaboration hosted by Emily at Farm Charm Chic. The guest host is Buffy Designs, and their channels as well as the playlist will be in my description box. Don't forget to check that out. My cloche and my lid on the first project were free. The glass and finial on the second project were free, and this box I got on the good table at my dump. So far, everything that I have used has simply been the items in my stash and some items that I have gotten free from my local dump. We have a good table and we can take or leave whatever we like to keep these things out of the landfill. So that is what I am doing for most of these projects. So that is free to me. Now, once I have all of these beautiful transfers the way that I want them, I am taking a clear wax here and I am going over the whole thing to protect that transfer. But I'm going to go over everything so that the finish will be the same. And I let that wax sit a good 15-20 minutes on this, and then when that was feeling, a little bit less tacky, I came in with a paper towel and wiped that back to make it nice and smooth. And then to finish this project off, I did take my antique gold rub and buff and I went around the top and bottom edge of the lid and just the bottom edge of the box to have some of the gold in the bird pop out, some of the gold in the branches, and really to just give this a little bit more of a high-end, something that expensive home decor places, a Williams and Sonoma kind of a feel to it. And I absolutely do love the way that this looks. It is just perfect in my living room. I had recently gotten that gorgeous picture at the Goodwill on our vacation, and it was a couple of dollars. I forget what I paid for it. And I already had these pears in green standing on these candle stands for quite some time. So pulling this whole thing together to create this partridge in a pear tree, I think was just a whole lot of fun. I really have enjoyed this so much, and I would love to do this challenge again. It is absolutely one of my favorites. I can't wait to see what the other creators have come up with in their videos. There are so many Christmas songs to choose from and so much inspiration. I could have done 100 more if I had the time. So that is number 3. And number 4, I have this sweet little, it's supposed to be a baby Jesus head and hands, I guess. That's what it says on the tag. But I, again, got this free at my dump. I know my dump is absolutely crazy. Somebody clearly bought this for a project and never finished it, so my gain. So I am going to go ahead and just take some drop cloth, and I am going to cut out a very basic shape of a body and fill that with some fiber fill, and then I am going to glue that head onto that body just so that I have something to work with here so that I can create an angel. And this is for angels we have heard on high, and I am going to, once I get that body filled, I'm going to make like a little sleeve of sorts so that I can attach the hands to this body. And then once I glue that on, I'm going to take out a very pretty antique looking lace that I had in my stash. And I'm going to slide that over. The holes are rather large on this, so I'm going to slide that right over the arms and attach that with some glue in the back and clean that up. And then I'm going to take out some elastic lace trim that I also had in my stash. I'm going to add a little bit of a collar to hide that area at the top. And then I'm going to add a little tiny cuff to each of the sleeves. And then I am going to add a trim at the bottom of the body underneath the larger lace, just to dress that up, hide the fact that that is just some muslin or some drop cloth there. And I'm just going to make this just a little bit prettier. And then once I have that dress the way that I want it, I went into my stash, and I am a spinner. I spin wool, and so I have a lot of different colors of wool in my stash. So I went through that to find out what I could use for some hair. Choosing a somewhat very pale blonde look to this, and then trying to figure out what to use for some wings. I had these in my stash, just a piece of driftwood that would be nice for a more rustic angel. Pulling out the clay molds. If you don't have the angel wing, I'm showing you, you could use one of those tags and bend it. But the angel wings that I do have are actually the perfect size. So I made two, and I glued them together and let them dry, painted that white, and then off camera did highlight all the high points with the gold rubbin buff to add to the feel of this angel. I added a little gold, it's not really a halo. It's supposed to have the effect of a halo, but just a little, she does maybe resemble a little bit of a hippie here, I do admit, but I think it's sweet. And then I added the wings, and then I added a little gold ribbon hanger so that I would be able to hang her from my Christmas tree eventually. And that is pretty much all that I did to her. And I am really in love. I think that she is absolutely gorgeous. Love, love, love it. And am so grateful that I found that little hands and head, because it made this DIY. It's absolutely gorgeous. I would love to know what you think of this beautiful angel. And that takes me on to my last Christmas song inspired DIY. And this one I've been wanting to do for a while. I have in my garden some broken fence pieces. So this one is going to be a bit more rustic than the ones that I have done, but I think came out absolutely darling. And I think that you will really enjoy doing something like this if you have some fence posts or some pieces of scrap wood in your stash. I cut the ends off and sanded them so that they would be smooth, and then I just painted the tops in a pale peachy color because that's what I had in my stash. And then I am going to start with the smallest one. This song is Away in a Manger, so I am making a nativity out of fence posts. And I am starting with the smallest one. I am adding some fiber fill to the back to give this a little bit of feel of a baby and also a little more bulk. And then I am going to just take some drop cloth and glue that on as a swaddling clothes around this little fence post. Very simple. I am keeping this really, really basic. I cannot paint faces, as you will know. I cannot even draw faces, so I should have probably asked somebody else to do actual faces, but I kept this really, really, really basic as far as the faces go. But I just went ahead and glued that cloth right on. And then I do later on go back and add just a little tiny bit of hair on the top of his head. And then for Joseph, I am taking the edges of my scrap of drop cloth and I am just gluing those down to make some seams, and then I am going to flip him over and glue this in the back and just give this a very simple shape for a robe. And then once that is done, I am going to take out a blue striped dish towel or tea towel. I'm going to add some fiber fill, and using some thin twine, I am going to go ahead and add that little turban. I'm not sure what they call that. And then after I have that complete, I'm taking some more of my my fiber, and I'm using some very curly sheep's wool here that hasn't been carded, and I love the fact that it looks curly for a beard and some hair. And then I add a mustache, and I'm loving the way Joseph is looking. Once I finished the face, I did decide he needed a thick twine rope belt, added that on, and then later I do make some sleeves out of the drop cloth and just glue those on for both him and Mary. And then I moved on to Mary. I am going to use this blue ticking fabric pillowcase that I've been saving for something special, and I am going to cut this in half and use half for her dress and half for her head covering. And then I am going to make a robe out of the drop cloth very similarly to how I made Joseph. I'm just going to have hers open in the front. I am going to braid some of the brown roving that I have, and I am going to make just 2 braids for Mary. And then I am going to attach that and add the rest of the ticking for her head covering. Of course, this is away in a manger, and I am hoping to put this nativity outside. I think I'm going to have my husband make me a little creche out of some barn boards that we have up in our shed. I just went around and tacked everything down where I wanted it to so that it would stay. Added a little bit of a face here for Mary, and that is how our Holy Family looks for Away in a Manger. And this is just sitting in my living room at the moment until I have a better place for it. I added a little bit of hair for Jesus. I added some arms for Mary and Joseph. Very, very simple and basic, but very sweet. And I am loving how this came out, taking that idea I had in my head for these pieces of broken fences and making something beautiful from it. So I would love to know which of these 5 Christmas song inspired DIYs was your favorite. If there is anything that you have been inspired to recreate, let me know in the comments. Please hit like and subscribe. If you are not subscribed, that would greatly help my channel. And don't forget to check out the playlist in the description box, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.